Hello and welcome in to this week's edition of the Sunderous Dunks podcast. And man, it was an up and down first week. Are you guys exhausted already? I know I am. And if you're watching this, I have a coat on because the Suns were so cold last night that it's make me cold. I am infected. How are we this cold shooting the ball? Man, we need Jalen Green back in the worst way. How many more games is this guy going to miss? He's played 82 games the past two seasons, and then he gets to the Suns and immediately can't play a game. This is horrible. Jalen, we need you. Please, please come back. Booker definitely can't do it all without you, and we'll talk about him for sure. But man, it was a tough first week. A lot of teams are up and down right now. A lot of teams are filling themselves out. And we've got a new coach, a whole new team basically outside of Booker. And it's going to be up and down for a while. And this team's going to be hard to predict. But man, if it keeps looking like it did last night against the Clippers, I don't know how I'm going to make it through the season. That was just terrible. But, we started the week out with a good win against the Kings. Jordan Ott got his first win. He got the water shower. We had a terrible first half. Looked like we were kind of dead in the water. Booker couldn't do anything, couldn't even make a free throw. Then the second half, we came out. We locked in on defense. Brooks got in DeRozan's head. Booker finally started making a lot more stuff. And we pulled that game out against the Kings, and we showed a lot of resiliency. And that's really nice to see, and I hope we see more of that. I saw that overall our team defense is like 28th so far through the first two games. That's not going to cut it at all. The team defense needs to be a lot better. And we're actually pretty good in the counting stats for steals and blocks. Steals, I think as a team, we're averaging 9.5. It's top 10 in the league. Blocks are similar. It's about 5.5 blocks per game. And, we're doing those things. Rebounds, we out-rebounded the Kings 51-37. But then against the Clippers, we got out-rebounded 45-37. That cannot happen, especially when we're missing shots. We need to be crashing the boards. And we need to have numbers a lot more like that Kings game than like that Clippers game. And so we're going to do a stock up and stock down for the week. And it's going to be a little difficult because a lot of players were good in one game and not good in the other game. But the stock up has to start with Dillon Brooks. What a great debut week for the villain. Some people did not want this guy on the team, but I think after seeing the first couple games, everyone wants him now. Dillon's been our best player, especially on offense. I think he's averaging something like 22 points per game through the first two games. And I think he's second on the team behind Devin Booker, who's averaging about 24 or 25 points per game. But Dillon has been pretty consistent. He's been making his shots. He was by far the best player against the Clippers. And of course, on defense, he's bringing what we know from him. He's been in guys' faces. It's just hilarious to see him in DeRozan and then in Harden's grill, just trying to make life difficult for these guys. He's not always successful against these players because they are some of the best offensive players in the league, and they're going to make shots. But he's doing his best to make life difficult. He's crashing the boards. He's being a leader. Dillon Brooks has been excellent, and he is easily the player with the most stock up this week. Second stock up, I'm going to go with Colin Gillespie, the mini villain Jr. The first game he was average. He had, I think, 9 and 3. And but the second game, he came out, he had 13 points and 5 assists. I think he made 3 threes. That three ball is looking really good. He's making good defensive plays. He's crashing the boards. He's had some really nice drives, some great assists. Colin Gillespie is looking like a very good backup point guard. And we need that, especially with Jalen Green out. Gillespie's an absolute must to play 25 minutes a game and be solid. And he's been pretty solid. And so hopefully that will continue even when Green is back. And we'll have hopefully a better backcourt rotation throughout the season. The third stock up, I'm going to go with Man. Kaman Malawach. He didn't play the first game, but he got it in that second game for a few minutes. He scored his first points, and he looked pretty good. He looked playable. It's been a weird center rotation, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But hopefully, Kaman will get some more minutes throughout the season. Can give us some boom rooms. He gave us a great block in that game against the Clippers, and we need more of that, especially if Mark Williams is not going to look good like he looked against the Clippers. We're going to need Malawach at some point. And so let's play man. Come on, Jordan Ott. Get man on the floor. We need him. And so those were my stock ups for the week. Stock down, there's a lot of people you could pick. The first person I'm going to pick is Devin Armani Booker. Book needs to be better than he was this week, especially with Jalen Green out. Booker needs to be the majority of our offense. He scored 31 against the Kings, but he was not efficient at all. He was missing a lot of shots, especially from the free throw line. He missed 3 free throws in a row, went 10 of 15 from the free throw line. Booker has to be better. I did like his aggressiveness in that Kings game. He was driving to the bucket a lot. He was not settling for just threes. And, he didn't pass too much. He was pretty aggressive. But it totally flipped the script in that Clippers game. Booker looked tentative. He passed the ball way too much. He shot 10 shots. That's only through 3 quarters. Maybe he would have went ham in the fourth if he had played. But he's got to take more shots, especially with Green out. And I know he's seeing a lot of defensive attention. I know he wants to make the right play. But he has to force it a little bit, especially when Green is out and Mark Williams is doing nothing. Booker, you are the offense. You have to force it. Even if you don't make every shot, we've seen you score on double teams. Do you not remember the shot over, guess who? Kawhi. And I think it was it Harden? It was against the Clippers at least. We know that shot against the double team. He can make shots over double teams, okay? We're not running double teams in open gym here, but Devin can score against defensive attention. It doesn't mean that if he's seeing a little bit of defensive attention, he needs to just pass the ball. You're better than that. We want you to be an all-star this year. We want you to be at least second team All-NBA, maybe even first team. We know you can do it. I predicted a career year for Devin Booker. I predicted that he would thrive outside the shadow of Kevin Durant. And so far, that has not been accurate. He needs to be better, and he needs to be more aggressive. I don't know if it's just playing with guys like Chris Paul and having that pass-first mentality that has poisoned the well for him, playing under Monty Williams, or if it's scoring 70 and then having the media say you're just a chucker and you need to pass the ball more. I don't know if that's kind of poisoned the well with him a little bit, but he needs to be more aggressive. He has to shoot more. That is just a must-have for the Suns. The second stock down is going to be the guy we've talked about a little bit already, Mark Williams. He was good in that first game. He had 11 boards. He was a plus 15. But the second game, against the Clippers, it all fell apart. Uh, I don't have the stats in front of me. I think he maybe scored 2 points, but the bigger problem was on defense. In his 14 minutes, he looked totally lost. Zubac kept scoring over him. Oso was playing better defense than Mark Williams, and that's completely unacceptable. I do like the fact that he's showed an ability so far to switch out on the perimeter and guard guys like Harden at times, and he's shown an ability to move his feet. But the main thing he needs to be on defense is an anchor. We need that defensive anchor, especially until Malawach gets up to speed and playing more minutes. Mark Williams has to be the anchor of the defense. And he did a pretty good job of it against the Kings. But in the Clippers, it was totally non-existent. Zubac was just working him. He looked like he was Yusuf Nurkic out there. Come on, man. You got to be better than that. But the third stock down I'm going to go with is Jordan Ott. He was good in the first game. He made the adjustments at halftime, got his first win. But he's a rookie too. And in the Clippers, he had no answer. And, we'll never know how much is coaching, but I want to see a little bit more from Jordan Ott. I really like how he's been in interviews. He gives really good answers to the media. He certainly is a lot more forthcoming than coaches like Bud, who just wouldn't talk to the media at all. I love how hard he works. He stays in the gym, last person to leave, along with Dillon Brooks. But he's got to be a little bit better. I did not like the fact that he started Oso again in game 2. And, it kind of worked out because Oso was better than Mark Williams. But Oso starting is not a long-term answer for us, at least not this season. Mark Williams has to start. And so I hope to see that sooner than later. I don't know if Mark Williams is going to be playing tonight against the Nuggets. Gambo was saying he did not think that Mark Williams was going to play both games of the back-to-back. But I sure hope he does. He only played 14 minutes last night. So hopefully that'll allow him to be on the floor tonight against the Nuggets. We need Mark Williams to have any chance. I think we're probably going to get killed against the Nuggets tonight. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But Jordan Ott, I think he needs to be a little bit better. He's left the bench in a little too long at times, especially against the Clippers. He got saved a little bit there because Royce O'Neal made a couple of threes when the bench was just out there way too long. He's got to have a quicker hook on some of these bench guys like Nigel Hayes-Davis. Booker and Brooks have to come back in the game sooner. He's not been calling a lot of timeouts so far. He's let the players kind of play through it. But, when the Clippers go on all these huge runs, he's got to use the timeouts a little more. So not completely impressed with Jordan Ott so far, but he's a rookie. It's his first week. I'm loving a lot of what I'm seeing from him so far. I think he's going to be a good coach, but he's got to be better than he was this first week. So let's see. Is there anyone else we need to mention from the first week of games? Ryan Dunn, he was great in that first game. I thought he was really the unsung hero. He had like 10 rebounds, 3 blocks. He was all over the defensive boards, really got us going against the Kings. But against the Clippers, it totally all fell apart. I think he only ended with something like 17 minutes against the Clippers. He just wasn't effective at all. In that Kings game, he was flying around the court. He was everywhere. But against the Clippers, we didn't see it at all. He had one nice dunk early. He had a couple rebounds, but he didn't look very effective on defense. And, we know the pairing of Dillon Brooks and Ryan Dunn is already a little undersized. And Ryan Dunn really needs to be a hugely effective part of this team, especially on defense and rebounding. And he was against the Kings, but not against the Clippers. So Ryan Dunn, one of my favorite players, we need to see a little bit more from you, man. We'll talk a little bit about Nick Richards. It's been a little weird for him, playing 5 minutes a game each game. I don't really know what's up with that. If he's going to be in the rotation, play him a little more. If he's not going to be in the rotation, don't play him. You can't really play three centers. Also, Mark Williams and Nick Richards. You got to pick. Nick Richards has looked good on offense, especially against the Kings in that dunker spot, scoring 8 points. But he's been terrible on defense as usual. Nick Richards is not a good defender. He's not a guy that can switch out on the perimeter, and he's just not a real well-rounded player. I like him, but he probably should not be in the rotation. We probably need to cut his minutes back at this point and just play Kaman Malawach over him. Let's see. Was there anybody else that we need to mention from the first couple games? Nigel Hayes Davis could have easily been on the stock down list. He really looks like a fringe rotation player so far. He just looks very average. He cleaned up in garbage time a little bit against the Clippers, but he just has not looked good so far. I like the guy. I'm happy he's in the league, but so far he's not looking like a guy like PJ Tucker that can come in and be a really huge part of a winning team. The verdict is not fully out yet on Nigel Hayes Davis. I hope he can be better. But so far, the calls for Rasheer Fleming to play more are really loud. Fleming got in against the Clippers finally. He showed a little bit. He wasn't great. He looked a little bit like a rookie and like a chicken with his head cut off. Nigel Hayes Davis, definitely more of a vet, knows where to be, what to do. But, he doesn't look like a super athletic, skilled player out there. He finally did make 1 3 against the Clippers. Nigel did. And we're going to need to see more of that if he's going to keep his rotation spot. Otherwise, just play Fleming, lean into the defense, lean into the long guy who can get the steals and the blocks. As long as he's in the right position and knows where to be, you're going to need to play Rasheer Fleming more. And then, Kobe Brea, he's still on the two-way. He hasn't played at all. I don't really know what the plan is for him outside of maybe playing in the G League. I don't know when he's going to get in the rotation for the Suns. Fuego, I love you, man, and I hope you get on the floor, but I don't know if it's going to be anytime soon, especially for trying to win. So that's about it for the recap of the week. Tonight, we've got the game against the Nuggets. It's going to be a tough game. We're on the back-to-back. I don't even know what to say. We looked so bad against the Clippers last night, and now we've got to go to Denver, Mile High on the second night of a back-to-back. I expect us to get killed. I expected that even before the game last night, But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. It will be fun to see Cam Johnson again, although I'm going to hate to see him in that Nuggets uniform. I haven't really watched the Nuggets yet. It still hurts to lose Cam Johnson, and I just hope he doesn't go for 30 tonight against us, man. But he might. But I really hope, at least for a bounce-back game from Devin Booker, we need to see something from Book. We need to see a more efficient game. We need to see more shots. Hopefully that starts tonight against the Nuggets. Monday, we go play against the Jazz. That team whooped the Clippers in the first game, but the Jazz are supposed to be the worst team in the West. So, Monday, especially if we lose tonight, that is a must-win game. We have to take care of the Jazz. And I don't know. We'll see if Lauri Markkanen goes off against us. But, man, if we lose tonight and then lose on Monday, it's going to be scary hours for the Suns. We got to win some games here at some point. And then Wednesday, we play against the Grizzlies. That's going to be a very interesting game. The Grizzlies are very up and down. They have a lot of talent. They easily could be a top 6 or 7 team in the West if they pull it all off like they did a couple of years ago. But it's hard to tell. We'll see what happens with the Grizzlies. I don't know what to predict against that team at all. They've had our number in the past, but we're more athletic this season. Hopefully, the Grizzlies grit and grind won't run us out of the gym. Hopefully, Dylan Brooks will be ready to play against his old team and lead us against the Grizzlies. We're gonna need you, Dylan. We're gonna need you, man. So it's gonna be an interesting week, and just wanted to keep it short and sweet, like I'm going to keep most episodes of the Sunderous Dunks podcast. Thank you guys for listening. Suns up.